Never before has a vaccine been developed with such speed. At 7 this morning, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, the MHRA, announced they had temporarily authorised the BioNTech Pfizer vaccine.
The UK was the first country in the world to pre-order supplies of this Pfizer vaccine, securing 40 million doses. Through our winter plan, the NHS has been preparing for the biggest programme of mass vaccination in the history of the UK, and that's going to begin next week.
The logistics are enormous and complicated. The vaccine is already being moved from the Pfizer warehouse in Belgium in packs of 975 doses. It needs to be stored at -70 degrees Celsius, although can be kept at 2 to 8 degrees for 5 days, so in a normal fridge. It will have GPS thermal sensors attached, so the temperature is constantly checked.
Next week, around 50 hospital hubs across England will start offering the vaccine to the over 80s and to care home staff and others identified by the JCVI. Typically, they may be people who were already down to come into hospital next week for an outpatient appointment.
The Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, the JCVI, has drawn up a priority list for the first phase. Elderly people in care homes and their carers are meant to be first, followed by those aged 80 and over and frontline health and social care workers. But because of the logistical difficulties, those who can get to the hospital hubs in England are likely to be first. Next are those aged 75 and over, followed by those who are 70 and over and the clinically extremely vulnerable. At number 6 are 16 to 64-year-olds who have underlying health conditions. And at number 9 are those aged 50 and over. These are vaccination centres for health and social care staff in Northern Ireland. The hope is they will deliver the vaccine before December the 14th. In Scotland, the first doses will be on December the 8th, but the Welsh Government has said at this stage they cannot deliver the vaccine to care homes. The 2 doses will be given 21 days apart, and there will be a time lag before it kicks in.
People will be immune 7 days after the second dose. A partial immunity does occur after the first dose, and we can see some protection occurring after day 12 of the first dose, but the best immunity is 7 days after the second dose.
It is 95% effective in preventing people developing COVID, but what we don't know is if it prevents transmission. This is nevertheless a triumph of science and technology. Using what's called an mRNA vaccine, it teaches our cells to make a protein to develop an immune response. No live or even inactivated virus is used.
I want to reassure your viewers that we have not cut a single corner in the delivery of this vaccine over the last 260 days.
Indeed, all involved are conscious that there is concern at the speed this has happened.
This recommendation has only been given by the MHRA following the most rigorous scientific assessment of every piece of data, so that it meets the required strict standards of safety, of effectiveness, and of quality.
How they got here so quickly was largely due to new clinical trial designs. Normally, phase 1 for safety would be followed by phase 2, the immune response, and in turn, phase 3, efficacy. Instead, they overlapped with each other, and the data was analysed at each step rather than waiting for the trials to end.
Everyone wants social distancing to come to an end. We're fed up with it. Nobody wants lockdowns and to see the damage they do. But if you want that dream to come true as quickly as it can come true, then you have to take the vaccine.
But the Prime Minister did warn that it will take months to vaccinate even those who are the most vulnerable, and that the public does need to stick to the winter plan. Well, this has been such a terrible year, and this was very good news, whichever way you looked at it. Government ministers were jubilant. You would expect that. In fact, we had the health secretary saying that he and his opposite number would go live on television to have the jab, and the Prime Minister's spokesman said he would even consider it as long as it wasn't taking the vaccine away from someone who needed it more. And the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, said something similar. This is part of the concerted effort now to persuade the public that this is safe and that they must have this vaccine if we want to reach herd immunity.
There has been a bit of tension, hasn't there, about how Britain managed to do all this so quickly?
Yes, the European Medicines Agency seemed to suggest today that their authorisation process was a bit more robust than ours. Well, that is not the case. And in fact, the MHRA said very specifically that, that this was done under the provision of European law, which remains until January the 1st. And that was actually in response to a bit of sniping about Brexit and how it was Brexit that got this done. In fact, the German health minister, in response to some of this, actually tweeted out, "I would wish from our British friends that it would be noted that BioNTech is a European development that has come from the EU, and it shows that when a European product is so good that it is approved that quickly in the UK, then you can say that the best model in a crisis is European and international cooperation."